Well, here we are, about to mow the rest of a 14-acre field with a 49 Ferguson TED20 TVO and an MF732 Fingerbar mower, probably one of the best ones made at the time. So let's go and set it up. Transport rod out the way. And oh, that's the cover off. As you can see, quite a vicious bit of kit. Let's get this down. Word of warning for anyone that doesn't know, don't ever put your fingers in there while you're lowering it. Those blades will drop about an inch. I think plenty of people have lost their fingers doing that, in fact, as you can see even as I'm doing it. So, there we are, in raised position. A good idea to secure the stay rod out the way as well. I've had that come off on me before, and when I tried to reverse it dug in, sent the hydraulics crazy. Excuse the crap camera work, but it's not very easy holding the camera and doing this at the same time. Should do the trick. Right. Well, this is about 60 years old, this one. It's a fair bit of development behind it, certainly a lot better than the original ones that came before it. There's a whole ton of settings that are changeable on this, but I think most of them were probably changed or set up at the factory or by the installer. They're best left well alone. The owner's handbook is a very good idea to have with this, because it tells you a couple of very useful things that I didn't know the first time round, and I learnt the hard way. The main one is, let's see if I can get to it. Sorry if this is hard to watch, I try to watch where I'm walking as well. This setting just here, when this is all lowered, needs to be 1 1/8 inches, if I recall the handbook correctly, the width apparently of the end of a Ferguson spanner. It's not vital to get it millimetre accurate, because this bounces up and down a lot. I think the whole idea of the 1 1/8 inches is to give it the free play it needs. If you don't set that up right, it won't cut right. Width of 2 fingers seems to do it as well. There's plenty of places to grease and keep in good order. There's grease points all over on this. The only settings you'll probably want to change yourself, if you need to, is this one just here, which alters the drop very slightly, but I haven't seen any need to actually change that. Other things like here, can you actually see that in this light? I'm not sure. Things like that, leave well alone, that's what I would say. Right, here we have where the teeth slide back and forth. Needs oiling. Any old engine oil will do it. I mean, I use used engine oil. It's great use for it, recycling. Throw a load in at all of the guide points. You'll find that these can get jammed up. I've got a fair bit of free play, as you can see on the blade there. I find it's not a good idea to shim these down too tight in it. There's a lot of flex in this bar generally, and you've got to allow for that. It's very tough though. Swathe board, depending on which area of the country you come from. It's all in good order. I had to replace the stick. I used an old piece of broom pole and just chiselled off the end and get it to fit. When the board itself goes, easy enough to replace. It's a simple enough shape, and it's a good idea to have a pin holding on through here as well. I still need to drill a new hole for that. I lost all of this assembly the last time I used this. even with a metal detector, couldn't find all the bits. There's a big spring in here. Can you see this? I can hardly see this viewfinder. I've used an old engine valve spring there. I lost that in the field as well. It allows the movement in this board, which it has to have lots of free play. It takes a lot of abuse as it's running along. Everything has to have some give in it somewhere. But a hole drilled through the end of that, and then put a linch pin in, split pin, whatever the hell, something just to stop it all unwinding. You'd be amazed how much stuff will unwind on this whilst you're rattling along. So we'll stop for a second and I'll get some oil out. Right, let's get started. Although this is a TVO tractor and I normally run it on a 4:1 paraffin to petrol mix, at the moment I've got no paraffin, so it's straight unleaded at the moment, which it doesn't run particularly brilliantly on. The octane's far too high. Doesn't idle very well on it. Anyway, let's get the blade going. Down a bit, probably not a great idea to. So I mean, I'm having problems getting this thing to idle at the moment. So that was a great idea. Oh dear, right. This will soon quieten it down anyway. That'll do the trick for the moment. And another point with one of these tractors is, especially Ferguson, is that the level control is pretty well non-existent on it. So I've used these chains here. Hardly ideal, but you need it if you're going to keep things at the right height. Down at this point here. I was intending to try and use a D-link, an adjustable link system, but looking at the one that I actually bought, it looks like it will get ripped to bits in about 5 minutes with the weight of this going up and down. And you do need to lift this up and down regularly. You can't just set it to one height and off you go. You'll be unjamming it, backing up to do corners properly, all that sort of thing. So that's necessary at the moment. Well, everything seems okay. I know I should be using a PTO guard on this. I just don't have one spare at the moment, so I have to keep a close eye out for getting grass wrapped around the PTO. It happens very quickly. You take your eye off it for more than a few seconds. I've had it about a foot thick before and had to carve it off for half an hour with a Stanley knife. It's irritating, to say the least. Well, everything seems okay. Let's just lower her down and see what. That looks fine, and as you can see now, the gap at this point here, if you can see that, is about 2 fingers, 8, whatever. So let's see how we go. I've got to follow this line here, which is left by the shoe that's down there that glides in it. That's important. If the shoe runs too far into the old cut, then it'll start getting clogged up and jam up with great piles of stuff. And if it runs too far into the uncut stuff, again, same thing if it drags stuff. The purpose here today is to get rid of the ragwort. So, as you can see, already done plenty before. It's not being harvested, it's just being left alive. So, neatness isn't that important. Let's go. Now here you can see the problem I have going the other way up the field. If things don't lay the same way, I guess it's just the way the grass grows. But I've now got no track to follow at all. And sometimes I can still see where the previous track was from the previous row, and I can put my left wheels into that. In this case, I'm just going to have to use good judgment and try and spot where it is. Otherwise, everything will get taffled up around the back here. but it's still coping fine right now. So let's just do it, shall we? This is incredibly bumpy, by the way, in case anyone's wondering. Very hard to keep this thing in a straight line at all. And I forgot to put the cushion on the seat, so I'm going to have quite a sore bum when I'm finished. But as you can see, it's still coping magnificently. It's a good mower. And here's one of the little hazards. I've just got it all completely jammed up now. Turning the corner quite often can cause it to grab quite a pile of debris, which it's just gone and done, which probably isn't that obvious from this, but if I try moving forward, you'll see. It just drags the whole pile with it and stops cutting. In fact, it's dragging the tractor around to the left, to the right. As you can see there, it's not cut. So I just need to unjam it, and that's not too difficult. Lift things up. And simply reverse the stuff off. In theory, anyway. Might take a couple of goes. And then try to get it past the last pile you've done, so it'll just pick the whole lot up again. Let's see. Well, that seems to work. Now here's a good demonstration of the clear line that's left by the shoe on the, well, the swath board actually, for me to follow. I'm biasing everything to the inside this way because the way I've got the chains hung at the moment on the back, the cutter's slightly too far across to the right. But this line is very, very clear to follow, as you can see. Makes it quite easy. I'll show you at the back. It's this shoe here has to glide along the clear path. And as you can see here, the swath board is clearing a very nice path for me. This is the whole idea, it sweeps everything across to one side. This swath stick here is quite important, that helps direct everything across. There are several settings on it, several places you can actually bolt this to. As you can see, various holes that you can attach it to. I have no idea how to set settings on it or anything. This is how I got it and it works. I'm leaving well alone. But it's quite important. Without this stick, you'll find nothing falls properly, and the next time you go around, you'll get everything taffled up in the mower. It really doesn't help much, but that there is probably a good indicator of what I'm doing. And as you can see, like I say, the whole mower is too far across to that side, and that's simply because of the system of chains I've used, which are a bit crude, to say the least. But they work, because as you can see, ow! Ow! As you can see, the distance here right now is pretty well spot on. It's behaving itself. I'd like to crack my knee against a rather sharp metal bit. I'm going to stop and cry. These Fingerbar cutters are quite capable of cutting through the tallest of vegetation. Over the other side, I had to go through a forest of thistle about 7 foot tall last week. It was taller than me sitting on the tractor, and it managed it just fine. There doesn't seem to be a limit to just what this blade can actually cut. It will happily go through young trees, as I found out to my cost. This ragwort just here is had no issue whatsoever. And I think that's a bit more than a meadow topper would actually be handled, although modern equipment will do the job just nice. But I prefer using this, to be honest, and I'm sure anybody that's into ancient machinery would understand that one. So let's just carry on. here's something that's just become a little bit of a snag. It seems there isn't a single time I can use this without something rattling loose, falling off. The blade sounded rattly suddenly, and the old motto is, if it sounds, looks or feels wrong, it is. Check it out. And what we've got here is the nut was just about to unwind all the way off. That's the one which is controlling the blade movement back and forth and connected to the arm which runs off the pulley wheel in there. I don't know if you can see that. So obviously this is going to need tightening back up again. Ow, this is very hot. And it also looks like it's been comprehensively chewed up. Ow, this is very hot. I'm just going to get the appropriate... Well, there we are, fixed and tightened up now, although the nut's in a right old state. I think I'm going to have to earmark this one for drilling a hole in the end and putting a split pin through, because that's the second time I've known that come undone. It's made a right mess of it. Everything's so frantic on one of these things when they're moving that it's not surprising bits fall off. But, I'll have to keep an eye on that one now.